There is so many plugins out there that it's hard to choose which ones are the best ones to buy for EDM music. So that's what this video is about. It's about cutting all the bullcrap out and showing you the 10 best plugins to help you improve your production game. Now, all of the links for these plugins are in the description below where you can purchase them and find out more information. So with that said, let's dive straight into it. So I'm sure you've probably all heard of Serum and you might even own it already. But if you haven't, then this synthesizer is an absolute beast and it stands out when it comes to producing EDM in particular. Serum can be used to recreate any synthesized sound you hear. Some say it sounds a little bit robotic, but it can be made to sound more analog and organic by adding a few little extra touches. Now, what makes Serum stand out from the crowd is its ability to import user wavetables. You can literally load any sound or any sample into its oscillators to generate a wavetable that's unique to you. On top of that, it's got a huge array of presets that sound really good and a bunch of built-in effects that you can map using the modulation matrix to modulate basically anything. Serum requires some knowledge in synthesis and sound design, making it kind of an advanced tool. But if you are wanting to learn synthesis, this is a great option for you as Serum uses visual cues so you can see exactly what you're doing. Okay, now Synplant is also a synthesizer, but it is so different to Serum, or any other synthesizer for that matter. Rather than replicating sounds you hear, Synplant generates kind of a random sound using this seed planting technique-y thing. If you click on a branch and find a sound you like, you can then replant that seed and repeat the process, creating weird and wacky sounds that you wouldn't have ever thought of. From the outside, Synplant can look like a random noise generator, but under the hood there are all the basic functions of a normal synthesizer. We have things like filters, LFOs, delays, reverbs, and all of these can be manipulated to fit the sound perfectly into your track. Now, it might look like you need a PhD in molecular biology to understand how this synth works, but that's the fun in it. Going in with no expectations and seeing what crazy stuff you come up with. If that still scares you, Sonic Charge has put in a full tutorial showing you all the basic functionality and what each control does. So in my opinion, this is a must-have for any experimental music producer. Sometimes the effects inside these synths don't quite cut it, and this is where RC20 Retro Color comes in. Like, this is a VST dedicated to effects. Things like a noise generator, a wobble and flutter, saturation and distortion, bit crusher, reverb, and volume automation. Each one of these effects contains their own set of controls and allows full customization. You can use one of these effects or stack them all together in a chain of 6. On top of that, there is also a sweet filter section. This can be used to remove or boost frequencies to help enhance the effects even more. Each one of the effects has its own dry-wet control, but there is a main dry-wet for the entire VST. This is awesome to use during builds and rises. And if all the knobs and faders scare you, don't worry, RC20 comes with a bunch of presets that will get you well on your way. Although if you come up with something you like, you can even save your own presets and reuse them later on. The fact that this VST has 6 different effects built into the one unit is what makes the money well spent. Do you know that saying, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, Decapitator is definitely a master of saturation and distortion. This is a godlike plugin when it comes to old hardware modeled saturation. There are 5 different algorithms that each have a slightly different sound. But I think the most impressive thing here is the punish button. Push this and increase the drive to blow your speakers. Decapitator is by no means hard to use. The simplicity of it is kind of attractive. The price tag, on the other hand, is a different story. But although the price tag is quite high, it's one of the only distortion plugins that emulate the old hardware so well, and that in its own right is why I recommend this plugin makes it into your collection. Delay is such a fundamental effect. It can be used creatively to come up with some cool rhythms, or really subtly on vocals to help fill out the mix. EchoBoy can do all of this and so much more. The amount of control on this thing is insane. Just like Decapitator, EchoBoy is also modeled from older hardware, giving it a unique analog sound. Inside we have 4 different delay modes. Each mode has a different set of controls for full customization. I think where this thing shines though is in the rhythm mode. This is used to completely dial in the delay for up to 16 beats. The delayed effect can even have other effects like saturation and chorus applied. I've been using this for a while now and I'm so used to it, but it did take me a while to get used to. The learning curve is a bit high, but once you wrap your head around it, you'll begin to use this plugin on absolutely everything. An essential tool that every EDM producer should own is a pitch shifter, and little AlterBoy is amongst the best. Not only is it a pitch shifter, but it also contains a formant shifter, an auto-tune mode, and a built-in saturation control. Pitch shifters are great for creating builds and tape stop effects and things like that, but little AlterBoy shines when it comes to vocals. This thing is an absolute beast for backing vocals. I'll use it on basically every one of my backing vocals by adding some format shifting or something like that. This can make the same vocal sound like a completely different vocalist. There isn't much that goes into this plugin, but that's what makes it so attractive. There's no learning curve and you can slap it straight onto your vocals and start messing around with them. If you are wanting to start doing some vocal processing, then little AlterBoy is a tool you should look into. Wow, okay. This has to be one of my favourite plugins of all time. There is so much you can do with this plugin. Think of it like a synth like Serum, but all the waveforms are vocal samples or loops. There are a bunch of presets that you can use straight out the box, but if you want to really dive in deep, you can access the engine mode and start creating your own from scratch. Pick a waveform for the 2 oscillators, modulate the filter cutoff, add some rhythm, and then drown it in reverb and delay to give it some ambience. You can even map each key on your MIDI device to play a different vocal sample. This is perfect for vocal chops. Exhale comes with about 500 presets, so even if you don't know what you're doing, you'll still find this thing useful and you'll use it in a lot of your songs. If you have some synthesis knowledge, then you'll absolutely love this thing and it will become a staple VST you always fall back on. Mixing and mastering are beasts of their own, and I think it's super important for every EDM producer to understand what goes into each part of music production. That's where Ozone 9 comes in. This mastering suite gives you all the essential tools to achieve the perfect master, and it makes it so easy. If you understand how to master your own tracks, then you can manually change all the effects like stereo imaging, multiband compression, dynamic EQ, exciter, limiter, and maximizer, and I gotta say that Ozone's maximizer is an absolute beast. Or if you're new at mastering and you still want to achieve that clean and professional master, you can use Ozone's Master Assistant. This uses a reference track of your choice, analyzes it to find the correct settings, and then uses those settings to create a similar master for your own track. You can then go back and fine-tune these settings to perfectly fit your track. If you want to learn every little part of Ozone, then you've got a big job ahead of you. But thanks to the Master Assistant, you can get a reasonably decent master in just a couple of minutes. That makes Ozone perfect for beginners all the way up to the advanced producer. Ozone was a mastering tool, whereas Valhalla Room Reverb is a mixing tool. Reverb is another staple effect that everyone should own, just like a delay, and Valhalla is one of the best. Each reverb VST uses algorithms to produce a desired sound, and Valhalla has 12 algorithms to choose from and are among the cleanest I've ever heard. On top of that, there has to be at least 100 presets to play with. This makes it super easy to lay down an idea fast without losing that creative flow. But if you want to dive deeper into the workings of Valhalla Room, you can do so with its simple and clean looking interface. This plugin is actually really well priced. For what you get, it's worth every penny. If you're looking for a great reverb plugin, then look no further than Valhalla Room Reverb. Alright, now next up we have Transient Master by Native Instruments. Now I was late to the show when it comes to transient shapers, but when I found out exactly how powerful they are, it changed the game for my mixing. You know those really snappy snares and hi-hats that are way too punchy? Well, this thing works perfect on those sounds by taming those loud transients and making them more consistent. On top of that, there's also a sustain control, and this works in the opposite way by making the body have a little more sustain. In a way, Transient Shaper can isolate certain parts of a sample and control the amplitude of each part. With this power, it's easy to remove those transients in the mix so there is no clipping in the master. With its 3 controls, it couldn't be easier to use. Throw it on a drum bus and increase the attack to bring them more forward in the mix. Or lower the attack to push them back in the mix. Want to tighten up the drums? Easy, just lower the sustain and feel the drums tighten. If you have never used a Transient Shaper, I highly recommend you check out Transient Master by Native Instruments.